All right, everybody, look, if I'm going to make some people mad here on the internet, I might as well just fully steer right into the skid here and just say it with my whole chest. What I'm about to say might make some of you all very mad, but after switching back to my iPhone 17 Pro Max here, to mainly primarily use my Apple Watch to monitor myself for any breakthrough AFib episodes after my ablation surgery last month, which, by the way, no AFib at all. So that's awesome. But anyway, the folks, back on track, so sorry. I have finally come to terms with the thought I've had for years now, probably the last 5 or 6 years. And that is, I honest to God wish I never would have tried iOS. Because after switching back and forth for so long now between my S24 Ultra and my 14 Pro Max, then my S25 Ultra and my 16 Pro Max, and now my 17 Pro Max and my S26 Ultra here, I've come to the realization that, again, I wish I would have never have tried iOS in the first place. Not because I don't like iOS. It is because I genuinely love iOS. So hey everybody, look, what's going on? My name is Terry. Thanks a lot for coming by, and I hope if you're a subscriber of mine that didn't make you downvote this video or hit that unsubscribe button. I really hope not. So let me sit here and explain myself, okay, y'all? Many of you do not know this about me, but I got my start on social media years ago, back when like the iOS and Android wars were like full force, and people would literally get into physical altercations about which platform was better. Not people with good heads on their shoulders, but just people in the street, you know what I mean? Like at bars and stuff, right? Well, my very first Android phone was a piece of junk Samsung. I can't even remember the name of it, but it was the really small Samsung Android phone that had the little push-out screen for the keyboard underneath it. It was a piece of junk. So that was a horrible first experience with Android. But then I spent a little bit more money and I got the LG Optimus, the very first, the OG LG Optimus. And y'all, that phone was my pride and joy. It had a great little camera on it. I don't believe it had a front-facing camera, or if it did, it was a very crappy one. But hey, what do you want for like a $225 phone at the time? Little like 3.5-inch screen, and it was great. I had it on Virgin Mobile, so I paid for it outright. Once I bought it, it was mine, and it was a great phone. And it was my very first introduction to Android. And it was kind of funny, you know, because before that, I still had a little flip phone, and I made fun of all of my friends that had Android phones because, like, why would you need Twitter in your pocket, Facebook, MySpace in your pocket? Like, that's so dumb. Why do you want to do that stuff outside of your home, not on your laptop or your computer? Like, why would you want to have access to that? But then I got it, and then like I got it, and then I got it. Like, oh, like, okay, this is kind of cool to have this kind of information at your fingertips, quite literally from anywhere that you are. I get it. And maybe it was because the friend group that I was in, we were all, you know, like PC nerds. We all built our own stuff, and just the thought of touching an Apple product, it made our skin crawl. Ooh, Apple, oh God, no. So we would always dog on iPhones. We would always, you know, poke fun at our friends that had iPhones, you know, call them iSheep, you know. And I never touched one. Like, I didn't even want to pick up my friends. But hey, Terry, could you do me a favor and pass me my phone? No, just get it yourself. I ain't touching that. No, like I was that guy. You know, like, of course it was all in good fun, but like I was that guy. Like, I never wanted to touch an Apple product. So that went on for years. I went from the LG Optimus to some sort of Samsung phone, another little cheap one. Then I went to an Optimus L90, I think it was. It was a very low-end phone, but hey, it was all I could afford at the time in that Samsung. I dropped it. It was plastic. It broke apart, whatever, right? But then I stayed with LG, and I got a better job at the time, started serving tables, and I treated myself to an LG G2. And that thing at the time was a flagship phone. And it was great. Amazing camera. I mean, a really nice screen. Like, it was a really dang good phone. And that made me stay with LG from the G2 all the way up to the G6. Great phone. Great phone. In between there, though, I did have a Samsung Epic at the time with the really nice big screen and the slide out keyboard. All of my friends thought that was a cool party trick. They loved it. But then after a while, though, you got used to typing on the actual screen. So I'm like, why do I need this keyboard for? It makes the phone that much thicker, and it slides out even if you don't need it. Like so. Then I got the LG G6, and that was the history. Okay. But then it was right around that time that the iPhone XR or 10R, whatever you want to call it, came out. And I said, guys, look, you know what? I am a tech enthusiast. I love technology. I love computer hardware. I love hardware just in general. And I am truly not being fair to myself for not allowing myself to see what the Apple experience is like. So I went all in and I traded my Android phone in just so I couldn't use it again on a brand new iPhone XR. And because the trade-in and the carrier special, I literally got it for free. So it costed me nothing to enter the ecosystem, right? And this was before I had AirPods or even the Apple Watch, like that, like years before that, right? So I technically wasn't locked into anything, you know what I mean? And that's when I got to first experience iOS and, of course, iMessage. But for me, iMessage isn't really a big deal. It's just a messaging protocol, a messaging app. So I just treated that like regular texting, you know what I mean? So that's not really a big deal to me. But just the overall experience, I was like, wow, this is actually, like, yeah, you can't customize it like Android, but okay, I can change my wallpaper. That's basically all I would really ever do anyway. And everything just looks great. It's nice and snappy. It's really responsive. Like, this is a really nice little phone. And what I liked about it was that, you know, it might not have been Apple's flagship, but it was still an iPhone. You know what I mean? So like it still got all the proper updates. All the hardware was up to Apple spec. And it was just a really nice first iPhone experience. But then I started noticing the little things like, hey, you know what? Like, I know that all of my apps are different, but they have the same type of design language. You know what I mean? Like, you can tell that the app developers really paid attention to Apple's guidelines and really made these apps look nice and also function very well. You know, I can remember at the time, I used to have a really horrible bug on my LG G6 with Instagram, to where I would just be scrolling on Instagram and it would just hang. Like, it would just completely freeze up. Or I could keep swiping the screen for a couple seconds and then it would finally catch up and then it would keep on scrolling, you know? But on iOS, I didn't have that problem with any application whatsoever. Like, even Google's own apps worked better on iOS, like the YouTube app. I didn't have any crashing on iOS, but on Android, a couple times a day, I would try to watch a video, and again, Google's own app, YouTube, would crash. And for the life of me, I just couldn't understand that. I'm like, wait, again, just why is Google's own app working better on iOS? As a matter of fact, why are all of my favorite apps that I use every day just working that much better on iOS? And I didn't know this, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but apparently to get an app on the iPhone App Store, or the Apple App Store, whatever you want to call it, you have to adhere to some pretty strict guidelines about what the app look like, how it performs, how it all syncs together with the underlying software. Like, it's a pretty strict thing to get on there, you know what I mean? Because they have a very high standard. And now having an iPhone XR, 10R, whatever you want to call it, I understood that now. And because of that, that is sort of kind of when I also went all in on my social media presence. I got way more serious about my streaming over on Twitch, which I still do, by the way, twitch.tv/ohheyterry. You know, hope to see you guys and gals there in chat. And I noticed that whenever I was taking photos of whatever I was doing in the Instagram app, it looked nearly identical as what it would have looked like if I would have just opened up the camera app first and took a photo that way instead. Like, it truly blew my mind at how much, especially again, social media, it blew my mind how much photos, videos, just the overall experience looked better on iOS in comparison to Android. Now, I know that there was a camera API back then that wasn't really up to snuff, and Google knew about it. And I know now they have the camera V2, I think it is, or whatever. And with Android 17, they worked with Meta here to actually improve the video and photo pipeline to, for processing directly on Instagram. And I can confirm that on my S26 Ultra, Instagram photos from the app directly, they do look a lot better. Same thing for the stories and everything, but that's a different video for a different day, okay? But back then, though, there truly was no comparison. And I remember my friends on Snapchat were like, dude, Terry, you have an LG G6. It has one of the best cameras on the market right now. Why do your videos and photos on Snapchat look like you shot them with a Game Boy Color camera? I don't know, guys. I'm really sorry, but like I guess it just must be my phone or Android or something. Maybe it's a bug. Then I did the same thing on iOS, and again, it looked nearly identical to as if I opened up the actual camera app. And my point is this here, folks. Whenever I am doing my work on social media or stuff like this here, I just want my stuff to work. I don't want to have to go through workarounds. Well, if you open up the camera app itself first, then do your work in that, then upload that to the app you want to upload to. Should you do that for the best looking photo or videos? Yes, you obviously should. But I'm pretty big on TikTok these days because, as we all know, you pretty much have to be on TikTok to go viral now and whatnot, because that seems to be where everybody is at now, right? Being able to just take my 17 Pro Max and open up TikTok and have this front-facing camera experience on here look just as good as me opening up the native camera app on my iPhone, that's incredible. To where if I wanted the same experience on my S26 Ultra, yeah, I could do that directly in the camera app, but I've noticed that the video is actually a little bit behind what I'm actually saying. Not that it's out of sync or nothing, but there's some delay in me hitting the record button to it actually starting to record, and then it all kind of catches back up with itself at the very end there. You know what I mean? So, of course, you could get around that by using the camera app and then recording whatever you want to do that way and then uploading that way. But I see so many people these days making a big to-do about TikTok and setting up a full-on, like what I got right here, like a vertical camera setup and everything for TikTok. And you know what? If you want to do that, that's your prerogative, and you go right ahead and you do that. But the wonderful thing about having a phone, you can make content directly from this thing. And 9 times out of 10, people are doing just that. They're opening up their phone. Oh, yeah, hey, guys, I'm making a video right here. Make sure to check it out on my YouTube channel. And then they post it. They don't even think about editing or doing anything else. They just pull up the app, hit record inside the app, and they post it. You know what I mean? And the fact that my video quality on my 17 Pro Max in any app that I use is just as good as using the native camera app, it made me realize that, unfortunately, no matter how much I hate to admit it, no matter how much I hate to actually say it out loud, Android still in 2026 is just not where I personally want it to be at. Even though it is my preferred operating system of choice, guys, like I cannot stress this enough to you all, okay? I love Android so much. Like, I loved Android so much that I used to make fun of iOS users back in the day, like calling them iSheep. Again, it was just out of, just poking fun at friends and whatnot. It was all laughs. But I mean, like, to go from loving Android that much to being able to take a step back and say, you know what? There are problems with this that do need to be addressed, but there still are some amazing things that I love about Android as well too, guys. Like, the typing experience on my S26 Ultra or any Android device. I heard it's even better on the Pixel, which that just blew my damn mind, to be honest, y'all. The keyboard typing experience on Android is miles and miles and miles, light years ahead of anything on iOS right now, okay? I'm actually running the iOS 27 Beta 3, and at least on this beta, I can say for my use case here personally, that the typing experience on the iOS default keyboard has gotten a hell of a lot better, but it's nowhere near as speedy and as accurate for autocorrection and context-aware autocorrection that I have with Gboard on my S26 Ultra. And you could just say, well, why just can't you use Gboard on iOS? And yeah, you totally can, but because third-party apps have to adhere to what Apple says, the Google keyboard experience is essentially a Google keyboard skin on top of the stock iOS keyboard with built-in GIF functionality. Like you can search for GIFs and stuff. Like, that's really it. But the underlying engine, as far as I know, is the default iOS keyboard engine, autocorrect, all that jazz. And guys, Apple, for real, I love you all. Obviously, I do. I give you guys thousands of dollars a year to buy new phones from you all. But it's 2026. Can we please, just can you consider maybe giving us a clipboard? Like, I copy and paste stuff all the time in Android, and I'll never forget, like last month before I switched to my 17 Pro Max again, I was literally able to go back on my clipboard, like from weeks ago, to find a security code for like two-factor authorization to transfer my SIM, and I lost it. But oh wait, it should be on my clipboard, and sure enough, it was. It was from like 2-3 weeks ago. It was there. That you can't do that on iOS. And yeah, sure, there's probably some third-party application on the App Store right now for iOS that allows some type of clipboard simulation or clipboard functionality, but I really don't want to give access to a third-party app my typing data and stuff like that. Like, my Galaxy has that stuff built in. Same thing for any Android device. Y'all, again, Apple, it's 2026. Clipboard, please. Or maybe there's not enough memory for the clipboard left because you all are using it for onboard AI. Siri, come on. Like, you're getting better. Don't get me wrong, girl, but got a lot of catch up to do. And yeah, I could sit here and talk about the whole AI thing and how Siri's garbage and yada, yada, yada. I'm running, again, iOS 27 Beta 3. And Siri, in my humble opinion here, has gotten a lot better. You can actually have full-on conversations with it, like natural language conversations. It will listen for follow-up questions now and actually do all that stuff the way it should. But as far as like full-on AI stuff, Gemini, in my opinion, or even Bixby for that matter, is still a little bit ahead. But to be brutally honest with the folks, the most AI that I use on my devices here is to set alarms, timers, and the occasional reminder for my calendars. That's it. So with all that being said here, everybody, again, I cannot stress enough about how much I love Android. Like, Android, it will always be home. It truly, truly will. But at least just for the time being, for its overall package, for its overall cohesiveness, and I hate to use this word because it's so business to business, but it's true. iOS is synergy with itself, like with apps and everything. I think I will be sticking with my 17 Pro Max here for probably the next long while. Maybe whenever the new beta comes out for my Galaxy Watch, or maybe there's another one for Android 17 with One UI 9, maybe like another beta course. I'll give that a shot too. But I really do think though, folks, that for my day-to-day, and again, mainly because I'm monitoring my heart and everything for AFib breakthrough cases with my Apple Watch, I really do think that I'm going to be sticking with my iPhone for a little while. And honestly, folks, like, that's truly not a bad thing. There is literally nothing wrong with these two devices. They both have their own pros and cons, and one is better than the other at certain things, while the other is better than the other at other things. You know what I mean? Like, it's two different ways to accomplish the same task. I just think that for the time being, iOS does what I needed to do a little bit more efficiently than Android. But that doesn't mean that I hate it. I still love this bloody thing. This is where I throw the question to you guys and gals out there in the audience, okay? Are you somebody that was an Android fan that switched to iOS? Or maybe you're the exact opposite. Maybe you've been on iOS for years now and you wanted something different, and now maybe you love Android just as much. Do me a favor, sound off down below. Keep it civil, y'all, please, please. And I'll catch you guys and gals next time.